How many times have you said to yourself, I'm going to succeed, and yet you keep coming up short? You probably noticed that high achievers with heart do things differently, but you just can't put your finger on it. You're curious about why high achievers accomplish more and have more satisfying relationships. It's because success is the result of your mindset and the consistent actions you take. This show is designed with your success in mind. By revealing these powerful patterns of our dynamic individuals and guest experts, you can model what they do and apply to your future success now. Let's roll up our sleeves and get started. My name is Brigitte Höfele, and this is the Success Patterns Show. And happy Tuesday. Here is the golden nugget. Success patterns are more valuable than ideas. Let me explain. Ideas, while very powerful, require trial and error and a lot of time to actually put into action. Let me explain. Ideas, think about manufacturing. First, you have an idea. Then you have a proof of concept, then a working prototype, then small production batches, and finally, maybe a full-scale production. This may take months, maybe even years, and you probably have met some people that are collectors of great ideas, but do little else. Forget everything you've heard about ideas. You're not looking for ideas. You are looking for success patterns. Success patterns are different and success patterns are better. And I'll tell you why. Well, first of all, patterns are proven. They have a logical sequence step to follow. They have an action imperative and they deliver consistent results. And in today's Success Pattern Show, you're going to learn valuable success patterns from our very special guest expert. I want to encourage you to have something to write on and something to write with, because I know that you want to take notes. Because one of the laws of success is expert modeling. And this individual, actually all of our success guest experts, are modeling what they have learned. And it's not all success. The success came from being aware, becoming aware of what's not working and how one can do it differently, and then teaching it to others. Our guest expert today is Craig Bruce, and he is a former burned out global executive who struggled with exhaustion, poor sleep, inconsistent and poor food choices, and just not feeling confident in his own skin. So he was so driven in his global lifestyle that it started impacting his health. And he has since transformed his health and changed his lifestyle through the use of science-based behaviors. Now, as a high-performance lifestyle consultant that he is, he empowers other high-performing business leaders and entrepreneurs to achieve success and more success in life without sacrificing the career and the key relationships and the health and all that is connected to that. So I am super excited that I have Craig Bruce here with me on this beautiful day. Craig, thank you for being here on the Success Pattern Show.
Brigitte, it is such an honor. I've been looking forward to this. I'm glad we're finally connecting. So thank you.
Thank you for making time out of your busy schedule, or may I say productive schedule, to take time to share your insights, your expertise. You speak on stages around the world. And I think you have learned a thing or two traveling around the world, being a global executive. Tell us, what was that like? And when being a global executive and traveling around the world, and when did you decide that, wait a minute, I am actually in this rat race? What happened?
Yeah, it's such a great question. I want you to imagine for a moment, if you will, that you're boarding your return flight home, and it's been a 15-hour day, and you have probably another 3 to 4 hours before your head hits the pillow. And as my Southern grandma would always say, I was sick as a dog. But you know what? I pulled off that meeting. And I get settled into my window seat, and the flight attendant approaches me, and I think she's going to offer me something to drink. But instead, she bends over And Brigida, do you know what she said to me?
What
She
did she say?
said, "You look horrible."
Well, that's not a nice compliment, Craig.
It wasn't. And I turned and stared at my reflection in that tiny little airplane window. And at that moment, tears started welling up, uncontrollable. And I looked at myself and I said, Craig, you're a grown man and you're crying in public. Stop it. Your life sucks. But to everybody else, Brigida, man, I was killing it. But actually, the truth was I was killing myself.
Yeah, I was going to say that. So the outside perception, and I love that we're having this conversation because so many people want to have this outward perception of, look, I have the perfect life. I have it all. I have the house and the boat and the this and the job and the that. Why? For what reason?
Yeah, well, because from the moment we come out of the womb, we are told that we need to do and we need to have. And as high-performing executives, business leaders, entrepreneurs, we're doers. We get stuff done so that we can have all these things that the world tells us we're successful. And don't get me wrong, I like nice things. And so we push and we push and we push and we push because that's the dream.
By whose standards? Like who came up with that?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, probably some of the billionaires, right? I know your audience is international. For those of us here in the US, it's that American dream to have possessions. And so we come to the table and we live our life with a have, do, be mentality. I've got to have all of this stuff. I've got to achieve all this stuff. I've got to achieve promotions. What do I need to do? I just work myself so that then I can be successful.
The being, I mean, if we truly look at the concept, is in the present. It is not something that we in a philosophical way. It's not a constant battling to get there. It's already here.
Yeah.
So you work now with executives like you used to be.
Yeah.
And before we hopped on this podcast today and on this show, we talked about how many people are identifying themselves with their job description.
Yeah.
Or with their company that they're representing. It can be also their own company, right?
Absolutely.
But there's an identity, may I call it crisis, amongst executive leaders that when you strip it all back, who are they and who are they in their being? Who are they be?
Yeah. Yeah, I had recently I was coaching an executive, and most of my clients are over the age of 45 for obvious reasons, and they are extremely successful. They've traveled the world. They continue to travel the world. They can buy anything they want. And yet at some point, they reach a point in their life where they're asking, what's next for me? Who am I? because for so many years, I've been associated with, well, I'm the executive vice president of, or I am the managing director of. And this executive said to me, he was actually a little older, and we were talking about, we're working on what's his next chapter. Because honestly, we're living longer. We have more discretionary income, and we want to do something in the next chapter of our life which is aligned with our purpose and our mission and our values, because we want to leave our legacy. And this executive said to me, I asked him the question, so what's getting in the way of you leaving your corporate role? And he said something to me that was very insightful. He said, I'm afraid to go from who's who to who's he in the matter of less than 6 months. How powerful is that? How insightful is that?
And that takes some real reflection on oneself, because that's a hard thing to look at.
It is. It is. And I love the way that you start your success pattern show with regard to the fact that success patterns are, it's about mindset and the consistency and the actions that you take. I completely agree, because what I have found is that in coaching hundreds of high-performing business leaders, like the people who are listening to us today, is that there are really 3 areas to focus on that are actually going to move you in the direction of living your best life now, which actually at the end of the day, I think that's what it's all about. It's about being present and living your best life now. And one of those areas is what I call consciousness. It's often referred to as mindset. And I use the word consciousness intentionally because I believe that it's a higher state of being. So let's get clear about who you want to be and how you want to show up every day. And then let's get intentional about that. Because as we think about living our best life now, yes, our career is certainly part of that. It's not the only part of that. And what I find is that, and I found this myself, is that as a busy global executive, you make sacrifices along the way. Sacrifices in your health, your wellness, and sacrifices in relationships that are important to you. And so let's get very clear about who you want to be and how you want to show up going forward, and then get intentional about making that happen.
Craig, let's talk about this, because you hit a nerve here. Yes, you want to be intentional in everything that you do. When you're in a corporate position, when you have climbed the corporate ladder, you're pretty high up.
Yeah.
You will put your own relationships, your own time, your own health. You'll eat the Big Mac, although you actually hate it, but it's just something, it's better than nothing. So you just kind of scarf it down. So you give up, you put yourself behind everything else, and you put your business first. May you be employed or have your own business. And you and we're probably guilty as charged as everyone else.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Why? And how can we do it different?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you that the second part of my story was that after that flight attendant made this grown man cry in public, the next day I landed in the doctor's office, and my doctor ordered bed rest.
Wow.
But my version of bed rest, it was my laptop, my cell phone, and conference calls from my bed. That's how driven I was. That's how focused I was, because that was my definition of success. And I was on that proverbial hamster wheel, and I just didn't know how to jump off. And what I wish I had known then, which I know today because of this journey the last 8 years, is you can continue to have that success, but you don't have to sacrifice your health and your wellness and your key relationships. And so literally what that means, and when I spend a lot of time with my clients actually coaching them on their lifestyle, and there are just some simple science-backed behaviors that if I had known then what I know today, would have allowed me to continue to perform at that high level, but not sacrifice my health. Little habits like, first thing you do in the morning, what do most people do first thing in the morning? When they wake up, they jump out of bed, they get on this cell phone, they check their email, and they have a coffee. It's the exact wrong thing to do.
Yep.
First thing in the morning, to actually set you up for success for the day, is to drink some water. Why? Because our body dehydrates overnight. Our brain.
Lukewarm?
Yep. You can make it lukewarm. Some people put lemon in it. Some people put salt in it, right? Just because of the iodine. Just drink that. Now, I will tell you, the first thing I do in the morning is to connect to my source, and I put myself in a state of gratitude, because I also know that impacts my mindset and my consciousness. And then I drink my water, and then I have to take care of my dogs, because if I don't, then they're all over me. But that's an example of a behavior that would, I think, have allowed me to start my day with more energy. Another example, every afternoon, I would go down and I don't drink coffee, but I did drink a lot of teas. Every afternoon around 3 or 4 o'clock, I'd go down to Starbucks and get a green tea. Oh, it's got some caffeine in it. Again, the absolute wrong thing to do. Caffeine actually stays in your system for up to 6 hours, which, if you're drinking coffee, you actually are going to have more. I mean, how many people go down and get a shot of espresso in the afternoon or drink coffee at dinner? That's actually impacting your sleep, preventing you from getting into deep sleep and REM sleep and recovering, so that you set yourself up for success the next day. Little habits like this, that in working with my clients, we build out a morning ritual. We build out an evening ritual. And I think had I had those rituals, I could have continued to work at that high level and not sacrifice my health.
So those habits, those rituals, those patterns.
Patterns.
will break up some of the high intensity of the work life that people that you work with have. You know, just taking care of a dog, that already gets you out of your own mindset and allows you to be there for another being. And then maybe even
I often say to my clients, what if we just lived our life like a dog? And let me tell you what I mean by that. What do dogs do the first thing they get up? First thing they get up and do is they stretch, right? They drink some water. They go take a poop, right? And then and then they go for a walk.
Yeah.
And then they eat.
Yeah, and then they sleep.
And then they sleep. Exactly. So let's all live our life like a dog, and then they wag their tail instead of their tongue. So there's probably some truth in that as well, right?
That's interesting. Now let's talk about sleep, because you talked about caffeine, and a lot of people get into the habit of drinking coffee later in the day or in the evening. How important is sleep?
Critical.
Mm-hmm.
It is, I would say, the number one area that can have the greatest impact on your overall health. And most of us suck at it.
Mm.
Because why? What do most people do up until they go to bed?
Here it is again.
There it is. It's that. It's a laptop. It's the TV, and
TV. Mhm.
right. It's all of those electronics, and what that is doing is our body actually wants to shut down in the evening. It's the rhythm. It's our circadian rhythm, and what those lights do is they actually send a message to our body through our eyes, through our pupils, that it's daylight, and your body gets confused.
Mhm.
And we don't get into deep sleep and REM sleep.
Mhm.
Deep sleep is where our body rejuvenates. REM sleep is where our memory gets consolidated, and in those deeper REM sleep, deep sleep, our body flushes out all kinds of toxins in the brain, especially. And that's why it's so critical to create an evening ritual
Mhm.
that sets you up for a good night's sleep.
And those rituals become part, when you do them consistently,
Yeah.
become part of your identity.
They do. And to use your words, those are success patterns.
Totally. So you talked about morning rituals, like early morning. What do you do? And here's the word again: being clear and conscious and intentional.
Yeah.
Being clear, conscious, and intentional in what you're doing from the moment that, even before your feet hit the ground. What is
Yeah.
it that you're doing? And with what outcome are you doing it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? That's the whole thing about being intentional. And then so and then you talked about the evening ritual,
Yeah.
truly unplugging so we can recharge.
Yeah. Love it.
What other rituals throughout the day? Because
Yeah.
I can still see executives go, and I include myself in that. Okay, so I got my bookends, and now I can just go 10 hours straight. Let's go do it. Let's go crush it, right?
Well, that's a really good question, and I will say that I'll tell you that my evening ritual actually begins in the afternoon, because I don't drink a lot of caffeine. However, I shut off all my caffeine by 2 p.m. in the afternoon. So that's part of that evening ritual, but it actually starts in the afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
Other kinds of rituals that can have an impact. Uh, Lunch. Now, when I was doing global consulting, I remember I'd be in the office and I'd go down to the cafeteria, and I'd buy this. I'd create this amazing salad, healthy, had some salmon or chicken on it. I'd bring it back to my desk, and I'd jump on conference calls. And I would look down 30 minutes later and the salad was gone. And I'd like, did I eat that salad?
You weren't even present for the food that you were taking in.
Wasn't present. That's such a great way of describing it. And I think that's part of, and I also, I know that, so here's the recommendation, and there's science to back it, is be present when you're eating your food, because up to 20% of the digestive process begins before food actually hits our mouth.
Aha.
Have you ever thought about food and your mouth starts watering?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? So when we see food, when we think about food, our digestive juices actually begin to secrete. And that's up to 20% of the digestive process. So when you are not being present when you're eating, you could be missing up to 20% of the digestive process. So food is not digesting. It's not getting into the cells for energy to make it which is where energy is created. And so take 30 minutes and just deplug. Schedule it. What I find is that if you will schedule it, anytime I'm working with an executive, it sounds a little structured and a little overkill. However, it works is if we get activities on their calendar, we increase the likelihood significantly that it's going to happen.
Well, it's a pattern that they know how to do.
Love it.
Right? So it's connecting the known to the unknown. If you've skipped lunch for, weeks, months, and years, you first have to reprogram yourself, and you want to connect it to something that you're known. So I can relate to that a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Guilty as charged, right?
Yeah. I think the other thing that's very helpful is B.J. Fogg in his book, The Success Habits, Tiny Habits, he says that to change a behavior, you need three things, and he uses an acronym MAP. M as in Mary, A as in Apple, P as in Paul. You need the motivation, you need the aptitude or the ability, and you need a prompt. And what I find is that in working with my clients is we'll set alarms. And it's a prompt.
Right.
For example, I have clients who say to me, I want to stop working by 6 p.m. Okay, well, let's set an alarm at 6 p.m. And then, you know what? What that does is it breaks your work cycle. Now you can decide to continue working, but let's actually, rather than just continuing to work, let's make a decision, bring it here into our consciousness, and make a decision as to whether we're going to continue or not. Because if not, our inclination as high performers and doers is just to keep going, and then
yeah, and then 12 o'clock midnight comes around, and you're like, actually, I'm hungry now. I can keep going, but I'm really hungry. And then, yeah. And then you get Grubhub or DoorDash or some junk. And now the cycle just becomes really vicious.
It
right?
does. It does.
Yeah. People need you, Craig. People need people like you. How do people learn more? I think you came bearing gifts, did you not?
I did.
Yeah. What did you bring?
So I would love to give folks, if you type the word ignite to 26786, I have my 3 secrets to ignite your energy and live limitlessly now. So a lot of what we talked about today is in that.
So
ignite to 26786. Text that.
So now we need this thing because it's smart, but sometimes it's too smart for our own good.
Yeah.
So text ignite, the word ignite, to 26786 and get the 3 secrets to energy. Live limitlessly now. I love that. I will get mine for sure.
Great.
How do people work with you? How do they get in touch with you?
Yeah, I would say the best way to get in touch with me is through email. That's Craig@evolvehealthandlifestyle.com. And I think we said type success patterns in the
subject line.
In the subject line. Yeah, thank you. In the subject line. And I would love to offer anybody who wants to chat a complimentary 30-minute Ignite You call, and we'll talk. We'll talk about what's working, what's not working, and maybe some insights into maybe some changes.
Yeah. Yeah. I think people can absolutely gain a lot more years, days, months, everything counts at this point in their life, and live some healthy relationships and really get to take some inventory on who they really are in their identity.
Agree.
Great.
Agree. And I will say that it's about progress, not perfection. And that's
Why not perfection?
Yeah,
Share
well,
with us.
Yeah, because I will tell you that you're speaking to a reformed perfectionist who for years and years and years, being a perfectionist served me well. But it's not continuing to serve me well now.
Mm-hmm.
And what we really want to focus on is the progress that we're making. Let's celebrate those success patterns, because with those small steps in success patterns, in our rituals, in our behavioral change, we eventually change our life and live our best life now.
It sounds very simple, but you got to start somewhere.
You do.
Yeah. So start now. Get with Craig. Make sure that you send him an email. I'm going to put it here again, Craig@evolvehealthandlifestyle.com. Get with Craig. Either way, you're going to have an incredible half hour. I mean, we literally just modeled it for you. It's going to be even better than this, and that's hard to top. Craig, any parting words for us as we end our show today?
Yeah, I think the parting words were we're all living longer.
Yes, we are.
Right. And it's and we have a lot to offer as elders. We have so much to give back to the world that the world needs. Our level of emotional intelligence is so high. Our desire to leave our legacy and impact the world. And so the time to start is now.
That's right. Absolutely. Get with Craig. Craig, thanks for being here. Guys, tune in again next week, same time, same place. Get with Craig. I'll see you soon. Thanks, Craig. Thank you for tuning in, and you will notice opportunities to apply success patterns daily while eagerly anticipating next week's content-rich success patterns.